Hi, hello. Thank you for clicking on my channel. I am Catie Brand and this is Tea Time True Crime with Catie. As always, these true crime stories can be very upsetting, but this one, guys, is a whole nother level. Usually I would not talk about subjects like this, but then I found out that the actual abusers may get out in 15, 16 years instead of 30, which honestly, you guys, in my opinion, lock them up and throw away the key. I don't think anybody could be rehabilitated from this. I think they're pure evil, and I feel like you should forgive everybody. I do, and yes, I think people should to move on to let them heal better, but at the same time, forgive them and let them go free and come back to society. No, not even sort of. So, I have a major trigger warning on today's episode. All right? This episode is called Locked in the Closet. Now, before I get started, I always like to have a shout out, or I talk about a specific product that I really like. Now, I want to talk about something that I have linked down in the description below. It's what I love very much. You see me wear all these beautiful crystal bracelets. You see me sometimes wear the crystal jewelry, earrings. Look at that beautiful black tourmaline protection, okay? Now, it is Gemstones by an indigenous woman. And she's actually indigenous and also Puerto Rican. And she also has the mobile psychic connections. I totally recommend. Her crystal jewelry is handmade, and also she blesses each and every item that she creates. She does bracelets, necklaces, earrings. She does all kinds of beautiful metaphysical items. Like I said, she gives all the good vibes. So definitely check her out. Her name is Jeannie. I have the link in the description below. And one thing I have to shout out is that one of these guys, look how beautiful, look how pretty, $6. And don't mind my nails, because when I was writing down the notes for this podcast, my anxiety was an all-time high. So, it's pretty bad when I'm ripping off my nails just to try to focus on what I'm doing. So like I said, guys, it is a rough story. Please grab a comfort item, perhaps a snack. I have my hot tea here, which I will have soon in the, during the podcast. But please know that I am talking about this to make sure that this gets more exposure, because I cannot take away what happened to these children. I wish I could. But what we all can do is to make sure that the abusers will never, ever be out of prison. I hear the weather's nice. Don't have to tell me twice. Before I go on with this horrific story, you're probably wondering, well, Catie, where did this come from? I don't know if you know, but I'm a huge horror fan, and I don't know if you know, but YouTube has free movies, and they're in really good format, very good picture, and they have all kinds of TV shows, movies, and my favorite genre, especially when I'm having a really bad day, which I had recently, it does happen, that is life. So what I like to do when I have a bad day is watch a horror movie. Now, I watched a horror movie that is very well known to the Gen X era. This is from, I believe, late 70s, early 80s, and it was called Flowers in the Attic. Now, apparently there's a whole book series on it. I don't know who would read this, not shaming, but you must have a steel heart. First of all, a loving, wonderful heart, but also you can take a lot, because these books, even watching the movie, it was, anyway, it's free on YouTube, and as you guessed it, the Flowers in the Attic were abused children. And I don't want to give too much away, but it was a famous book series turned movie. I think the movie was starring Christy Swanson, which of course I will always know her from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Not Sarah Michelle Gellar, the TV series, but from the movie back in like 1992. Yeah, with Paul Rubens. R.I.P. I love Pee-wee. Oh, yeah. But Flowers in the Attic, I watched it, and I was, because it said horror, and I was like, oh, I'll watch it. And I did not know what I was getting myself into. I'm like, oh my gosh. And one thing I love to do, you guys, is I read the comments on videos, on movies, because it's very interesting. Now, a lot of comments talking about the Flowers in the Attic were the Gen X crowd. You know, the ones that are like in their 50s. I think, not 60s, because that's like, I feel like, anyway, it's basically, you know, before the millennials, okay? So, I'm not going to tell you my age, even though I probably have another podcast. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So, the Gen X era watched the movie, and they were, like, scarred. Now, when you watch it, of course, there is some corniness to it, because a lot of us nowadays are desensitized. But if you put your eyes on and think about, wow, what would happen if I watched this when I was a child? Yeah, that would like totally just upset like anybody. So I was thinking, well, there's got to be a reason why they have flowers in the attic. There's got to be some kind of case. Now, fortunately, it's fiction. It's a novel. But I read that the author actually heard some kind of a story where children were locked in the closet, you know, in some kind of enclosed space. It could have been a closet or an attic. Probably was an attic because that's what the name of the book was. So I am researching and I find this case. And this case is the Kenmore case of, it's either Akron, Ohio. And we're going to go early 2000s. When the kids were finally rescued, it was 2003. But this is going to be involving 6 children. Yes. The beginning, though, is going to be the horrific captivity of the 2 younger children. We do not really know the ages of how it started, so what I'm going to do is rewind it back to talk about the mother, Mary. Mary, I believe, had a traumatic thing of her own. I shouldn't say thing. Let's just say that she had been pregnant from 15 years old all the way to 21 with all different fathers. Yes, definitely. Now, Mary actually met her girlfriend at the time. And if you're wondering, girlfriend, like girlfriend? Yes, this is a lesbian relationship and that shouldn't matter. But I have to point it out because that's what it was. Mary met Alice Jenkins in a gay bar in Ohio, and they hit it off very well. And, you know, the kids say that in the beginning, things weren't so bad. They actually, Jesse was the main narrator of the show, Evil Lives Here. So a lot of the information I get is from that episode. The episode is season 11, episode 1, if you want to check that out. If you don't worry, I got you, because I'm going to summarize it up, and I'm also going to update you on the children. We have little Jesse and little Tyler, okay? Now, I said 6 kids, but it seems that the abuse went really horrifically toward the younger children than the older children, but all children face some kind of abuse. But I'm going to be focusing on Jesse and Tyler right now. Jesse, like I said, was the main narrator of the episode, and it is absolutely heartbreaking. So if you want to watch it, please light a white candle, because he is clearly traumatized and he has not healed. Even though this happened when he was really young. He got rescued when he was 8 years old. Yeah. Yep. And it's sad. I'm telling you guys, it's sad. So, as I'm saying, Alice and Mary hit it off, okay? Now, Mary, her name was Mary Rowells or something. I don't know, but she did have these children. Now, three of the kids that were Darnell, Marissa, and Caleb, those three kids were with their dads. Yes. And so at this time, in the house is just the family dog, and you have Tyler, and you have Jesse. Now, I don't like to talk about people's ethnicity, race, because again, I believe there is none. We all should be treated the same. Doesn't matter what you look like. But in this particular instance, Tyler was dark skinned, and of course, adorable. He was just a little boy. But Tyler and Jesse had a really great relationship. Now, Jesse describes in the beginning that with his mom, it wasn't too bad. Like I said, they went to Chuck E. Cheese. Things seemed a little bit normal until when he was really young. I don't know if his mom was just having a bad day. There's no excuse. But Jesse was, little kid slurping on spaghetti, doing the slurping sounds because he thought it was funny and he thought it was okay. I mean, he's a kid mimicking the mom because the mom was making noise. Well, all of a sudden, she grabs her fork and stabs her son in the arm. Yeah, I know. Why? I don't know. But this happens before she meets Alice, okay? So I don't know why any of this happened. I don't know what the excuse is. I'll tell you what Mary's excuse was, but that'll be later. So already, Jesse is just a little kid, and he's just wondering what he did wrong, and he remembers the blood coming from his arm. In the show, he actually shows a tattoo that he actually got tattooed of a Band-Aid over the scar. So it's like a reminder, but it's also forgiveness, to his mother. All right, so already we have, not really good stability right now. Right now it's just Tyler and Jesse. And they're pretty close, even though they're half siblings, everyone is a half sibling. They still act like brother and sister. They're still extremely, extremely close. But not at this time. Okay? In the beginning, Tyler and Jesse were really excited about going to school. They were okay with Alice, things were okay in the beginning. Jesse said things were, like I said, normal, like nothing weirdly happened. Until one day, the boys were in the room playing, and then out of nowhere, Alice gets rope and just she was very quiet and reserved, which I feel is like another kind of psychological scariness for some reason. Because she didn't scream or yell at the boys, while she was tying them up. She just, basically told them to just be like, come here. All right, don't move. And she would leave the boys tied up for a long time. And then when Alice would go to work, which we don't even know what she did for work, it doesn't matter, but she'd be gone all day. But then when she got back home to be with her girlfriend Mary, she noticed that Tyler and Jesse got out of their ropes and they were with their mother. Now, in the beginning, Jesse didn't think anything of it. He thought they were playing a game because every time they would get tied up, the two boys would figure out how to untie themselves and go with their mom downstairs. Yeah, I know. It's very, very odd. Well, one day it didn't feel like a game. Tyler and Jesse were just playing like usual, and they weren't trying to be loud. And all of a sudden, Alice comes in. And she gets the boys and separates them, puts them in two different rooms. She doesn't tie the boys to the bed. In fact, she does something that absolutely terrifies them. She gets the rope that she was tying the boys with and started to tie the boys' rooms' door handles together. So if the boys were trying to get out of the room, the other boy couldn't get out. So for a while, Jesse would talk to his little brother, Tyler, through the wall. He said he would, they would talk through the wall, but probably not understanding. So the best thing that they would do is play music. They would just like bang on the wall, and then the other brother would be, and they'd be there for hours and hours. And they'd be so hungry. In the beginning, before they were tied up, they were fed Captain Crunch cereal, just a little cereal in the morning. And then when Alice got home, she would feed them dinner. Yes, and the dinner would be mostly, he said, like mac and cheese and hot dogs. Not too bad. Probably not, not to have it all the time kind of thing. And then, the boys started getting really scared because, they weren't getting tied up anymore, but they were getting like locked in the room. She wouldn't even let them go outside. And what's more painful is you're like, well, Catie, how do they go to the bathroom? If there's a rope to one door handle to the other, how is he going to get out? Horrifically, you guys, the little boys began to go in the corner of the room, try to rip up the carpet and go to the bathroom. Yeah. Jesse said that he was scared to death that Alice would find it, which, these are little boy brains. They're thinking like, I'm going to go underneath the carpet, and, they're not thinking of the smell or anything like that. They're just, trying to do the basic human thing to do is, go to the restroom. And this happened, you guys, for months, for a long time. And Jesse doesn't understand why. It was when, it was one day they realized, well, we need to take, they need to go to school, right? Now, before they were going to school, remember I told you about the 3 other kids, Marissa, Darnell, and Caleb? Well, they lived with their dads. And they, for some reason, Mary fought for split custody with those children. So the kids would actually spend the weekend over there with Alice and Mary. Now, what Alice would do, she would like get the kids out, she would untie them, and she would make sure like, okay, everything's okay. She would feed them more. And so they're like, what's going on? And then the kids started going to school. Marissa would actually walk her 2 brothers to school, and they'd be really excited. But what's really sad is for a long time, they didn't know, they'd never been outside. So when they went outside and they saw like the moving vehicles and the beautiful trees and like felt the wind, it was just these new sensations. Like, they're like, wow. Now, when Jesse talked about that makes me so sad, because he said in the beginning of his childhood, it was okay. Nothing was wrong. But then when Alice came into the picture with his mom, Mary, that's when things started to turn into a nightmare. So as I want to talk about it, things start escalating. And I'm trying to do my best to do the events, the like talk about them the correct way as possible, because this is very upsetting matter. Because, already you have these kids, being locked in a room all day, barely being fed, and not even taken to the bathroom. So urinating and defecating underneath the carpet in the room, and they're not being bathed. Their clothes are not being, of course, they're not having any of their needs met at all. This is like beyond neglect and disgusting. And I'm sorry, guys, but it gets worse. So the boys, Tyler and Jesse, go to school, and they realize, they can't read, they can't write, they can't even tie their shoes, because they were taught like, they were pretty much imprisoned in that house. Now, something must have happened. It must have been a teacher. it must have been somebody, because out of nowhere, the two boys were ripped from school. They were not allowed to go back to school. Now you're wondering, did they make friends? Like, didn't they check on them? Yeah, there was one day you had these kids come up to like the sidewalk close to the house, and they were just being kids, like yelling up, like, "Hey, come on, you want to come out and play?" And and then the two boys are at the window, and they're like, "We can't, we're not allowed." And they're like, "What? What do you mean you're not allowed?" And all of a sudden, Alice comes right in, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And then she like slams down the window, because they were talking, and then the two boys were dragged into a closet. Now they were like, what's happening? And she just like punished them for being in the closet, and they're like, huh, okay, what did we do? So they're just like kind of rocking back and forth. They're like whispering to each other. They're really upset. And this closet, you guys, is tiny. It's a tiny closet. It's like one of those closets where like you have your maybe like a little dog bed or something. Like if you want to make a cool little dog room, I mean, some people do that, they like take the door off the handle and they make like a little room, like a nook for a little library, or maybe, for their pets. And the irony is that these kids were treated like animals. I mean, I think animals are treated better than these kids were. So these two boys are locked in the closet. And I'm not saying just locked. Alice gets a padlock and padlocks the door and gets a huge bureau and puts it right in front of the closet. She does that for a long time. And these boys, they're pretty hungry. And she starts to bring them a little bit of food, and the only thing that she would bring them was a half of a peanut butter sandwich. Now, they were so hungry because by then, there's nowhere to go to the bathroom, so they're going to the bathroom in the closet. I know, it's awful, it's disgusting. And so she makes them get out of the closet when it's time to feed. And then she does this weird power trip thing where she makes the little boys get on their knees. Yeah, get on their knees or on their shins and just like looks up to eat. And she splits a peanut butter sandwich. Not peanut butter and jelly, just peanut butter. So these two little boys have to split this sandwich. And this happens for a long time, you guys. I mean, when Jesse talks about it, he goes into like psychosis during the interview. Like it's so sad. They didn't know the concept of time. They didn't know how long they've been there. It was really, really sad. But remember, those kids, their half brother and sister would come over on the weekends. And then that's when Alice would take them out of the closet and they would like hang out or whatever. Now, this would happen for a long time. Now, what would happen is like when they're put in the closet again, Tyler and Jesse have each other. They love each other. They're brothers. And they're just trying to stay alive, Because now it's come to the point where when she brings that peanut butter sandwich, the little boys are eating it so slowly that they're trying to just like save it, because they realize this is all we're going to get all day, and their stomachs are past being hurt. And they're in a closet full of their excrement. So for a survival tactic, I can't believe how little kid knows to do this. It's so beyond upsetting. When they start getting the little bit of their peanut butter sandwiches, they actually go and upchuck it. Yeah. Yes. They upchuck it and then they re-eat it. Oh my God. I know. I know. So by this point, things are really bad. These boys are in a closet for days, for weeks, for months at a time, okay? And let out very rarely, only to make sure that, Alice knows and tells the other kids that, everything is fine, everything is good, but we all know it's not. After this is happening, the boys are in pain, okay? They're in agony. They're starving. Alice is literally starving these children, okay? And what is absolutely awful is that Tyler, the beautiful dark-skinned child, for some reason, Alice would take him out of the closet, get a belt, and beat him right in front of Jesse. And Jesse has no idea why. They would talk about that Alice had these steel toe boots, so when she would come upstairs, they can hear the big thump, 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 thump. And when she was near the closet, the boys would just be absolutely quiet. But then she would rip open the closet and say, like, you're being so loud, I can hear you all the way downstairs. So she would just beat both the boys, but sadly, Tyler got more of the beatings. And Jesse claimed that he would have rather starved to death than to see Tyler get beaten like that. Yeah. I don't know why she was harsher on him, but I have a guess, because, yeah, he didn't do anything wrong. And you're wondering, well, where's Mary? What is Mary doing? Well, Mary's excuse is that, she had total remorse and that she was just on morphine. She was on morphine a lot, so she didn't understand what was actually happening. Sorry, that is the most bull answer I've ever heard of. I'm sorry. What? Like, you come home from work, Alice is home, and then you're like, oh, how are the kids? And they're like, they're fine, they're eating dinner. But they're not. They're literally locked up in a closet, and they're like freaking excrement, like eating throw up. Like, what? I don't understand that. Well, for some reason, one day, I do not know why, you guys, but these women won full custody of the 3 other kids. So we got Jesse, Caleb, Tyler, Marissa, and Darnell. Yes. I know. And it's when Marissa goes and tries to tell someone, okay? Now, we actually don't know if it was Marissa, because there was a time which CPS, I actually know someone who does, who works at CPS and who did, and they were wonderful, wonderful people. But I know there's good and bad in everything. So when I say this CPS was absolutely just like awful, I'm not saying all CPS is, okay? But these CPS people, I don't know how Alice was prepared. I don't know, guys, if they call you ahead of time saying they're going to have an in-home visit. Who knows? But before all the kids, came over to live with them, there was a situation where CPS did get involved. I know, right? Great. Finally. It could have been a student. It could have been a teacher. Who knows? Or it could have been one of the kids that visited their siblings on the weekend and noticed, wow, this room smells like awful, and they're not getting bathed or fed properly, So CPS comes to the house, but right before they come to the house, Alice comes with a trash bag full of toys and really cool stuff that a kid would like, and she just dumps it right in front of these 2 boys. And Tyler and Jesse are like, what the is this? Like, they're kids, but they were so confused, like, we've never been given anything. What is this? And then all of a sudden, the CPS people come. Now, when they're little kids, they didn't really know what that is. Well, as older, they knew. So Alice would put on a show, some kind of an act, and show like, oh yeah, here's the kids. They're playing. But CPS did not go upstairs. They did not check the closet. They didn't even go anywhere in the house. Because if they would have went upstairs and smelled what the investigators smelled, it would have been over. They would have been ripped out of the house. But CPS were, I guess she Svengali'd them. Who the hell knows? And they left. And they left. And Alice knew that she could get away with anything. So when they left, Alice grabbed all the toys and the trinkets and the products that would bring children joy, just threw them back in the trash bag and took them away from the kids and put those 2 children back in that closet. Fast forward to she got custody, which now makes a lot of sense. If CPS already came to the house and said it was fine, she could get full custody of the other 3 kids. Well, these 3 kids were a little older, okay? I believe one was like 14, 16, just like, the ages range from when they were saved was like 6 years old to 14. So, yes, between the actual 6 children. Yeah. 6 kids: Jesse, Caleb, Tyler, Marissa, Darnell, and Danny. One of the kids, though, you guys, when I show you this picture, did not want any interviews. So he was the oldest. So from 6 years old to 14 between the 6 children. Now, Marissa, she was just a saving grace. Marissa, when all 6 kids were living in the home, not only the 2 were beaten, but the other kids said that there were belts and there was a hammer involved. It's awful. And for some reason, Alice was like she wasn't harsh on the older kids, except she was harsh on the younger kids. They believe because, Mary, the mother, was giving them too much attention away from Alice, so that's why Alice had to punish the children. I know, it's disgusting. Well, one day when Alice and Mary were both away, Marissa actually she moves the bureau, unlocks the closet, and lets the little boys out. And they're saying, I'm hungry, please, can I have some food? And she's like, all right, come on, let's go. So they go down the stairs and they're met with the other kids. And they go to the fridge and they're absolutely horrified to look at what they saw. That the fridge and all the cabinets were absolutely filled with food. And Jesse said that is a type of evil that is, a cruelty that you can't even bear. And then Marissa was like, just take what you want. Go. Hurry up. Get back in the closet. Take what you want. And these kids, there was Gatorade, there was Pringles, there was Gushers, there was all this food. I would say it's junk food. I wouldn't say it's like really good, substantial food. But they actually took the food, Tyler and Jesse, and they went back in the closet and she put them back in there in case they got there. And they were so happy that they ate the food. Oh my gosh, when Alice came back, she was furious. When she found out that they went and ate food, their punishment, oh man. I'm not sure if they were beaten at this time, but they were beaten a lot. But one thing I do know 100% was she was so angry that she didn't bring any half a peanut butter sandwich to any of the boys and starved them for 3 days. Oh, man. Then, 3 days later, Alice comes back up with a bowl. And she shows the boys. And she goes, and she says something like, "Oh, you don't want any food now? You stole my food. Here's some food." And what was in the bowl, ladies and gentlemen, was not food. It was actual feces from a dog. Yeah. When Jesse is describing about him eating that, you can just see this poor man, because he's in his 20s now, relive it. And he just says that the trauma of it's the worst thing you can do to a human, is to feed another human being like, excrement. Oh, man. And, Jesse was talking about it, and he goes, "I know I didn't have a gun to my head, but we felt totally trapped." So they did. And after that, months went by, weeks go by, but little did the boys know that Marissa was hatching a plan. She was hatching a plan. These boys were so starved, and these kids were not allowed a lot of food because, man, when these kids were found, they were so underdeveloped, they looked a lot younger than their age. Yeah. Well, one day, Alice and Mary are sleeping, and they're apparently really sound asleep because Marissa, around 3 o'clock in the morning, she gets everybody up, her brothers, and she gets Tyler and Jesse out of the closet, and they're so out of it, they're like barely clinging to life, they're like skin and bones, they don't know what's gonna happen. And Marissa's like, "You gotta leave tonight. You gotta leave right now." And they're like, "What?" So Marissa and the older boy, we're not sure like which one, but it was the older siblings, were prying off the nails of the windowsill to get it up to let those two kids out. And the kids were like, "What about you guys?" And Marissa's like, "We have to stay here or she's going to suspect something." So she let the 3 little kids go. The 3 younger kids went and the 3 older kids stayed. So Jesse is describing leaving that horrific night. By this time, these boys have been starved, beaten, malnourished, things done to children that no one should ever go through. And these kids start slowly climbing down the roof. One of them grabbed the gutter, like it's like the pipe thing on top of the gutter. And this is where I think it was a miracle. So one of the kids grabbed on the gutter to climb down, but the whole thing fell and did a huge loud noise on the grass, like bang. And the kids were so scared, and they looked back up to look at Alice and Mary's light to see if it turned on, to see if they woke them up, but no light turned on. So Marissa's like, "Go, go, go, go." And these kids, they don't know anything. They don't know what to do. They never really been outside before in forever. And these kids are beyond malnourished. They're beyond thin. And they're wearing like no clothes, and they're covered in filth. They're like half naked, walking down the street barefoot. And then they see a hose and they start to drink from it. And that is when a neighbor, I don't know why she didn't offer them in, but that's nearer there. She calls the police. And then out of nowhere, the police come and they pick up the boys. Now, they put them in the police vehicle, and they're so scared to even speak. Then the police officers were like, "Where do you live? Why are you guys out here?" Until the police were like, "Hey, we're going to get you something to eat. And when we get you something to eat, you tell us, okay?" Now, the boys were very excited. Now, these police officers, they didn't get them like, crappy food, if you know what I mean. They stopped and got like a big sub sandwich with, in Philly we call them hoagies. And these kids never had anything like it. It had vegetables and meat, and there was a huge Gatorade. And these kids, the way they were eating the food was so animalistic that the police officers are in the vehicle and they're looking through the cage thing in the car, and they're horrified by what they see. They're like, oh my gosh. And they're like, we're gonna take you back. And the kids start being hysterical. No, don't take us back. Don't. We escaped from the closet. Please. And the police are like, no. You're staying here. You're not leaving this car. And then what they were doing when they were on the walkie-talkie, they're calling for backup. And they quickly went back to the house, different police officers, and without any question went and arrested Mary and Alice. Yep. So the kids are in the back of the cruiser, knowing that it's all over. And the other 3 kids are rescued. Yep. Mary, she was crying a lot during her sentencing. I'm thinking she was crying just for herself. They were charged, she wasn't, well, I think they both were, but it was 55 charges. Alice got all of it. And, the judge was so disgusted. It was a woman judge. And she was just she couldn't even believe the horrificness and the evil of what happened to these children. Because looking at these kids, and when the investigators just went upstairs and smelled what they smelled and saw the excrement and the urine everywhere, in the corner, they never seen anything like that in their lives. They said it was the worst case of child abuse in Ohio's history. Yeah, Akron, Ohio. That's definitely horribly going to live in infamy. Now, like I said, these women were actually charged 55 charges and 30 years in prison. But they had a chance of parole after 15 or 16 years. But like I said, I'm doing this horrific story to let you know that they don't deserve to get out. I don't care. I don't care if the mom was on morphine. I don't care. This type of evil, even though the mother didn't do this, Alice did all this, the mother could have stopped it. She could have left. When anything went awry, she could have got her kids and were we're out of here. But she didn't. She scarred and made these children extremely sick. Jesse and all the rest of the kids were all hospitalized for malnutrition, but Jesse nearly died. He was in there for 6 weeks in the hospital to rehabilitate his body again. Yeah. I know. It's awful. I just want to say something about Marissa. So Marissa is amazing, and Marissa is an angel, and she saved those boys. And I am really sad to say that when she was 24 years old, she was married for nearly 6 weeks. She had beautiful children, and according to Jessie, that's what she wanted. She always wanted to be a mom, and she had these wonderful children. And one day, when she was dropping off her kids at the daycare, she was on her way home, and oh my gosh, these stupid idiots were drag racing, and she got hit head-on collision by a Jaguar. Yeah, that fast car, 24-year-old Dylan somebody, and his friend were drag racing. He lost control of the vehicle and hit Marissa head on and killed her instantly. Yeah. I just think that is so incredibly sad, because those boys loved Marissa. She saved their lives. she was the strong one to stand up. And then when she saw a moment that, I don't know how she knew that those two women were really out of it, like they didn't even hear a crashing, oh my goodness, like a gutter pipe smashed. She knew. She's like, you gotta leave now. We'll follow behind, but you have to leave now. And then years later, she goes and passes away in a freak accident. Like I said, the oldest boy doesn't want his names, that's why I didn't do like last names, you guys, because if you want to look it up, you're welcome to. But some of these kids really just want it to be forgotten, and they're really scarred. But I like to say most of them are in relationships and they have kids now. One of them said that their kids actually like saved their life, and I think it's awful that 16 years later, after in 2023, I think it was like 2023. No, 2019 or something. I don't know, but around that time, guys, they were going to set those women free. They are scheduled to get out in 2033. And the kids are saying that, they're going to be really elderly and old when they get out. But I don't think they should get out. I mean, I'm not for the Hammurabi Code, two blind eyes make the world blind. But in this case, though, I kind of want them to be treated the way they treated those little boys. Let me know. Let me know down below what you think. There was a Dr. Phil episode about it, and it's going to make you beyond angry, because they actually go and, Dr. Phil goes to the house, and when they go to the house, there's like fresh paint everywhere, there's toys, there's like a Mario theme, like any room that a kid would want, and they go in the closet, and it's all clean, and they were like, so basically, that lady was showing Dr. Phil that those kids were lying. And she's like, look at all these clothes. Like, they had it in the closet where there was so many clothes. Like, she's saying, like, how could a kid fit in here? How could two kids fit? It was like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, are you serious? The abuse happened. And these poor little boys were so scared that nobody would believe them. Which makes me think how many times Alice said to them, nobody will believe you. Nobody cares about you. Well, you know what? They did. Marissa did. They all ended up in like foster homes, but apparently they were very loving homes, which is awesome. That's a great foster story. Yay. And, like I said, they seem okay, but, some are really not. And like I said, the oldest boy didn't want an interview or anything. So if I said any name wrong, please forgive me, but that is what I researched. But maybe something tells me they gave them different names. Who knows? These kids were all technically minors. But I feel that if you just look up the story yourself, do the research. I say don't because, like, I haven't slept in, like, days. In fact, I forgot to do the freaking, oh my gosh, my hot tea. Oh my gosh, hot tea. All right, this time George made it, and I'm wondering what he gave me. Oh, he probably, ooh, let me taste it. My favorite, green tea with honey. You can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong, you guys, with green tea and honey. Thank you very much, guys, for listening or watching. It was definitely a rough one. If you are fascinated by true crime, definitely hit the like and subscribe button. I really do appreciate you. If you have a story that you want to be known or have exposure to, my email is teatimecb@yahoo.com. And follow me on my socials, DM me. Just come with me with beautiful energy. Or just, you know, hang out. I go on TikTok live a lot where I let people vent their frustrations. There is no judging, just come with good vibes. Even though what you're saying may not be good vibes, but if you come with good intentions, I'll know. Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate it. Please know that you are loved and you are cherished. And remember, you are doing better than you think. Bye.